Hey everybody, this is Cynic25 here, bringing another deck profile, and this time we're profiling Blackwings. So this is a deck I actually made about 2.5 weeks ago, and I recently actually brought the regionals. It was a pretty ballsy move, but it did a little bit better than I thought it would. It kind of broke even, which was nice, and I had some really good games, I had some pretty poor games, but overall, it's a pretty fun deck. I'm actually planning on potentially maining this in the future as one of my main decks, and it can really hold its own, especially with the new support it's gotten. Now is probably one of the best times to get back into Blackwings. Now, one of the main things, before I even go over the individual cards in this deck, I want to go over the theme of this deck as a whole. And when I built this deck, I was under the impression that my opponent will be in the mindset that I always have Clute in my hand. And that, honestly, is a truth when you're playing Blackwing. And your opponent will be doing as much as they possibly can to pop your Blackwings with a spell, trap, or monster effect as opposed to battle. So I'm trying to stop those monster effects, stop those spells and traps and going off, to essentially force my opponent into battle. So that was really the theme of this deck going into it, is trying to work around my opponent's mindset of, I always have Clute in hand. Now to go into the individual cards here, just the one Dark Arm, because it's just the obligatory Dark Arm. Everything is dark. There's plenty of ways to manipulate the grave. One Sirocco, I feel like you never really need more than one. Two's a little bit cloggy. You don't want to draw too many of these. But it's great once you get it on the field of Black Whirlwind, it pretty much opens up your deck. But moving on to the heart and soul of the deck, which is really Shura, it's just great. It opens up so many plays for you. It gets out your steams, which is absolutely incredible. This card, I'll be going into a little bit later once I get to his individual card. It opens up your Leo plays. You can even make Draco Sack in this deck. But moving on to Bora, just a beater. You can special summon it. It opens up your 6 plays. It opens up your 5 plays. Zephyrus the Elite, you only need 1. Opens up a lot of shenanigans. You can bring Whirlwind back to your hand. You can bring Fiendish Shame back to your hand. Reuse all that stuff later and just get him onto the field. Make either an XZ or a Synchro. Or just push with Clute, which also is the heart and soul of this deck. The psychological threat this card gives people is just incredible. They're just so afraid to attack, and they do everything they possibly can to pop you with a card effect. But yeah, 1 Gale the Whirlwind, just you can special summon it, have your opponent's attack. It's a 3-tuner, opens up Beazle, opens up your 6 plays, opens up your 7 plays. It's just great. Steam. Now this is the card. This is the card that has defined the new support, aside from Black Sonic. Oh man, you literally, with the introduction of Steam, it has turned Shura into a 1-card Leo. Yeah, this deck can make 1-card Leo and 2-card Draco Sack. So, to make your Leo, you just summon Shura, you destroy something by battle, you special summon Steam, you sync out for Armor Master, you get a token, you tribute the token to bring Steam back to the field, and then you sync with Armor Master and Steam into Leo, and you're just sitting pretty. The one downside to that is you're doing it on your main phase too, so if your opponent has a response to it, they actually can stop your Leo, but it's still a 1-card Leo nevertheless. Now to make your Draco Sacks, you need to have 2 level 4s on the field. It could be 2 Shuras, it could be Shura and a Bora, but you need at least 1 Shura. So again, you just proceed, you attack with Shura, you bring out Steam, you sync for Armor Master, you bring Steam back by tributing the token, you sync Steam and Bora into Black Rose, you don't use the effect, and then you just overlay these 2 7s into a Big Eye or Draco Sack. But moving on to Blizzard, only really need 2. It opens up your 6 plays, it opens up your 7 plays. It's just a good card. It's like a 1-card XZ, basically. Orochi is the other new support. Obviously not as good as Steam, but it's still great. I mean, you can make 8s with this thing. Like, you go into Armor Master enough that you could just special summon this at the field and make Beazle. So, Armor Master also has kind of turned into just a stepping stone for either Beazle or Leo, but that's okay. This card opens up your entire Synchro extra deck if you know what you're doing. And the fact that it can also change battle positions of a monster on the field is also very welcome. It's great against Boojins. You just turn your monitor to defense and ram into it. But, yeah, it's a great card here. The fact you can special summon it's also a plus. Now, 3 Effect Violer. This is where the real personality of this deck really starts coming into play, because I'm running 3 Effect Violer and 3 Fiendish Chain. Now, I know a lot of Blackwing players aren't running this nearly to the extent that I am, but I find it actually good in this variant because, again, you have to remember your opponent's mindset is they want to get your Blackwing off board through any means aside from battle. They're going to be doing it with card effects, and you need to make sure you can stop those monster effects from going off and getting your Blackwing off the board, because if you're not sitting there with a Blackwing, Black Sonic's dead. Icarus Attack is dead. Clute is dead, and you don't want that. Those are just 2 powerful cards to have dead. You want to be running a lot of stuff to stop those monster effects from going off and destroying your Blackwings. Not only that, but Blackwings is still a pretty slow deck, and you need to slow the rest of the meta down so that you can kind of bring them down to your level and you can continue to play. Into the spells, only running 8. 2-Potted Duality. 3 is a little bit much considering the amount of special summoning potential this deck has. But it's nice to be able to get into your Whirlwinds. It's nice to be able to get into the Blackwing you need, because this deck has some consistency issues, because you really want to be getting into your Boras and your Shuras as often as possible. And occasionally you just get a lot of the little guys and you just can't do as much with them. So this helps you get into your bigger Blackwings to then use Black Whirlwind to its fullest potential. The 1 Book of Moon, the 2 Forbidden Lance, and aside from its already good utility, it's great with Shura. So it's just another thing that makes your opponent afraid to attack, because if Shura gets around their monster, it's just going to special summon Steam and you just go off. So this is a great card. The 3 obligatory Black Whirlwind, this is really what makes Blackwing Blackwings now. It's what makes them still relevant, this format, and you want to be running 3. Just opens up your deck. 1 bottomless, only 2 Icarus attack. Okay, so this is where more of the personality of the deck comes into play. I'm actually siding my MSTs, because I felt like before I was running 3 Icarus attack and 2 to 3 MSTs, and it was just really cloggy, and honestly a little inconsistent. And I honestly feel like 2 Icarus attack kind of does the job, and in fact a little bit more flexibly. Obviously, if I'm running against a deck that's pretty heavy back row, I'll just side in the MSTs in addition to the Icarus attack, but on its own, 2 Icarus attack is fine, because there's occasions where Icarus attack can actually be inconsistent with the theme of the deck, because as I mentioned previously, you want to make sure you always have a Blackwing on board. And Icarus attack is actually a little bit incongruent with that, because, well, it takes one of your Blackwings off board. So you want to be really careful with how you use this. You do not want to be using it recklessly, you want to be using it conservatively. And at 3, it can be a little bit cloggy, in my opinion. Now, I know there's going to be plenty of people who disagree with me, and you know what? Probably rightfully so. But in the format we're in, also especially, this card just isn't as good as it used to be. Years ago, this was an amazing card, and it still is an amazing card now, but there's just so many better cards out there now. I just don't feel like I can justify it at 3 anymore, especially considering it takes one of your Blackwings off board. But moving on to Black Sonic, which is a good transition, in order to activate Black Sonic, you need a Blackwing on board. And if you don't have a Blackwing on board, this card is dead. So you need to be careful with your Icarus attacks. You also need to make sure you can keep your Blackwing on board so you can proc this thing. And that's also why I'm running my Effect Veilers and Fiendish Chains and Safe Zones, just to keep my Blackwings on board to utilize my really cool spells like Icarus attack, like Black Sonic and Collude. But that's basically it. I mean, just the Compulse, the Solemn Warning. I mean, if you can Safe Zone a Beazle, that's like, you're in a good winning position. If you can Safe Zone even Shura is great. You Safe Zone Shura, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. You just keep running into things and getting more monsters on the field. That's always welcome. Yeah, moving into the extra deck here, it's pretty diverse. It has everything from 4s to 10s, basically. So 1 Leo, 1 Beazle, 1 Armor Master, 1 Black Rose, the 1 Armwing, Beastguard Vulcan, which I actually don't own. I will be getting it eventually. This card is so good in this deck. It's nice to be able to just bring back your Fiendish Chains. It's nice to bring back your Safe Zones. It's just great. And the fact you can bring back one of your opponent's monsters is also very welcome as well. Also, like, there's a cool little trick you do with this. So let's say you have Bora on the field. You bring back Kalute with Blizzard. You can go into Beast God Vulcan with Bora and Blizzard, and then you can bring Kalute back to your hand with Beast God Vulcan. So that's pretty cool. But other than that, going into the 5s, just the Armides, the Cataster, Fighter of the Dark World. Don't go into the 4s that much, but they're occasionally helpful. I mean, Orochi really just opens up this entire extra deck if you know what you're doing. Now into the ranks, yeah, I'm just running the Honor Knight. I'm running the Ice Beast, which is also a great card if you know what you're doing with this. Like, if your opponent, like, they try to Shatter Imprisoning Mirror with you, you could just bring this thing out and just negate it. It's just great. 1 Heartland Drago because you're running Black Whirlwind. 1 Cowboy, and then 1 Evil Swarm Nightmare for anti-meta hate. Into the side deck, just the 2 system down for Gear Gears, running the 3 Mystical Space as a side. So one thing that really hurts this deck really incredibly is Royal Decree. I mean, your trap lineup is incredible. So if they stop that with a Royal Decree, you're in deep trouble, because that's how you slow the meta down. When I know my opponent's playing a Royal Decree based deck, I always throw 3 of these in there immediately. But as I mentioned previously, having the MST and Icarus attack in at the same time is a little bit cloggy to me. There's just better things I felt like I could run. The 2 Mind Crush, 2 Fascinating Trap Hole, 1 Delta Crow, 1 Lightning Imprisoning Mirror, 1 Soul Drain, and then the 2 Blackhorn. So yeah, this is my Blackwing deck profile. I have a lot of fun with it. It's just a really diverse deck. It's really non-linear. Like, in comparison to a lot of my other decks, even things like Zombies, where there's so many different plays you can do with Malicious and Plague Spreader and Dumping, this deck is just so non-linear. You have 1 tuners, you have 2 tuners, you have 3 tuners. When I was playing Kochi, I had a 4 tuner. Effect Flower is a tuner. So there's just so many different synchro plays you can do with this deck, and it really adds to the complexity of it, and it's just really enjoyable. So if you guys are thinking about getting the Blackwings, now's honestly probably your best time to do it. There is so much support here and so much potential for Blackwings, and I hope it gets more show at regionals, because when I was at regionals, there was only 3 people there, including myself, that were playing Blackwings. So see if we can bring this deck back, guys. It's really fun. So as always, if you really like this deck profile, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and take care.